They're not really saying yet.
Here we go. We're set? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Altamont Planning Board meeting. It is, and I've been wanting to say this all day, 2/22/22, and it's 7:01 p.m. For the record, both the audio and video portions of this meeting will be recorded. My name is Deb Hext. I'm the Planning Board Chair. And Barb, introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Barb Mulfelder.
Steve Caruso.
Simon Litton.
Bob Freeman.
And also tonight, we have Ginger Hanna, our secretary, and Gary Goss, our building inspector. Okay, so why don't we get going on this? The first item on our agenda tonight is to consider a 6-month, can you hear me okay, Ginger? 6-month extension to Mr. Romaninski's conditional Bozenkill subdivision approval as per his email dated 1/26/2022. Does anyone have any questions about that? Have they had a chance to review it?
I reviewed it. I have no questions.
I reviewed it and I'm good.
Okay. Simon?
I just wondered why we have a timeline limit on it, which we are going to probably blow past, have an extension.
I don't understand.
Well, there must have been some reason to have had the timeline that the applicant is exceeding.
Well, I can't answer for the applicant that you mean what took him so long to?
No, why do we have that cutoff line?
Well, because it really delays. I mean, if we allowed someone to go year after year after year after year with a property that's kind of in limbo, it just wouldn't be the right way to handle things. Every board has a date that it's good for, say a year, it's good for a year, or it's good for 6 months, or it's good for 18 months. Otherwise, it would be kind of hard to keep track of. If all of a sudden somebody just started digging and, you wouldn't know what's going on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
I guess it doesn't.
I'm sorry. I do have a question with the extension. What date does that bring us to?
Well, he requested it on 1/26,
So
so that would be a 6-month extension.
7/26/22.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Okay, and then could I have a motion to approve the 6-month extension for Mr. Romaninski's Bozenkill subdivision?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Sorry, I wasn't in the microphone.
Who second?
I second.
Okay, Barb,
Oh,
Sorry.
it was a joint effort.
roll call, please.
Okay, Board Member Caruso.
In favor.
Board Member Freeman.
In favor.
Board Member Linton.
In favor.
Board Member Mulfelder.
In favor.
And Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Okay, the next item on our agenda is review the conditions set forth in the resolution document for the Bozenkill subdivision approved August 2021 to determine if all said conditions have been met. Ginger, have we gotten all of the monies that were due?
We got the $6,000,
Okay.
which is the $1,500 per lot
Mhm.
for the park fund. I don't know about what other monies would have been. I
Do you-
know there was the sidewalk thing, which I think is per lot as they come forward and say, okay, we're going to develop that, if I remember the minutes correctly.
Yes.
Is that what you guys remember?
Yep,
Yes.
the 300-foot. Well,
There was also an attorney's fee.
that's right.
$8,000, I believe.
No, for the attorney's fee?
No, I'm
1,000.
sorry.
Yeah, it was 1,000 for the attorney's fee now.
24,000.
Do you know if we got that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I only know about the 6,000 yet.
So that was on top of the 6,000, or is that included in it?
No, that would be separate.
Okay.
The 6,000 is per lot, 4 lots for the park fund, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And there's $57.50 owed for the transcription. also,
Did we get that?
1,000.
That would only be for the public hearing part. The transcription, do you know if we got that?
I don't know that. The person that we would be able to check with would be
Catherine.
Catherine.
Okay.
Treasurer.
Okay, let's see. I think that's the only thing I saw, the only, number 3 kind of goes into number 4. And number 4, I think, is definitely something that needs to be considered a little bit more involved. Just trying to remember if the sidewalk thing was, I think, yeah, we were going to have them put the 300 linear feet in right away, because if they didn't do it that way, if they did it piecemeal, and they did it for one house, and then months later they did it for another house, and then a year later they did it for the third house, the sidewalk would look uneven and wouldn't match. So I think the agreement at the time was to install 300 linear feet of sidewalk in front of the proposed lots 1, 2, and 3, which was required by the planning board's prior approval. Now, of course, they can't meet that because the building hasn't started yet, so.
And if I remember correctly, I think we left it at, they would at least make it, because there was an issue with people wanting to walk and everything like that, to make it at least passable.
Right, crushed stone, something
Yep.
like that, yeah, good memory.
Deb, I thought that there was something, I have to go because I didn't reread the minutes right before the meeting, but didn't we decide that the sidewalk fund would be put into an escrow per lot? So as they came forward and said, okay, I want to develop lot 3, then they came forward and paid that amount, it went into escrow, and when we had the escrow for all 4, we did the sidewalk, so it wasn't just, okay, we got this lot
That's
we're
right
developing,
here.
we're going to put in that sidewalk, and now we're going to put in this sidewalk, it was all going to be done at once.
Come on,
I made a note of it.
those were the conditions that were put. Number 3.
Okay. Yeah, $24,000 to be held in escrow.
To be held in escrow for the construction of 300 lineal feet of sidewalks as shown in the subdivision plot.
Right.
And they'll be paid in $8,000 increments in
Right.
applications, okay?
But that, again, that's not, something that we can say that he has or hasn't met,
Right,
because it's not built yet, so.
correct.
That, that type of thing, we can deal with later on, but.
Right,
I think the biggest concern right now is any monies that might be outstanding. I know he gave for the parks fee, pretty sure he did the attorney's fee. I think I remember talking to Allison about that. But I made a note, I can definitely check with that. Does anybody see anything else that would have been a condition prior to building? No, I don't either.
neither, no.
Okay, then we can move on to agenda item 4, a topic in discussion, consider accepting the letter from Mr. Smart stating that the wetland delineation has not changed from the GPS map from 2004 or require the applicant to submit a new wetland delineation based on current field investigation. So who wants to go? Sir, is this a new delineation, or is this the same one from 2004, 2005? The map?
So my name is Dave Kimmer from ABD Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. This delineation is the same, substantially the same as it was in 2004. It was confirmed by Bill Smart. He did actually go out there physically to redelineate the wetlands this past summer, just to confirm that his original delineation was correct, and that is what he specified in the letter that was provided
And
the
how did
town.
he do that? Did he take soil samples? Did he do a survey?
He did a field survey. He walked the entire property. He was looking for the specific types of vegetation, standing water. And he indicated that, what did he say exactly?
I don't know, you know, that's one thing, I don't see a report on how he determined the delineation.
If I may, just before, I'm new guy in the block here. So when you say, so he's doing basically not measurement, but just a walk around to see how basically keeping it natural and whatever, or however everything has been, and if any changes have been made because of the construction?
Well, there's no construction has taken place.
Well, no, not yet, but I mean prior to make sure nothing does, or the
So-
natural state of it.
Yeah, how these wetland delineations work is, back in 2004, he went back in here. There's basically kind of a ditch that runs from here to here, and then kind of like a drainage swale that it connects into over here. And what he's looking for is, you know, you don't dig it up to
Sure.
determine if it's wetlands.
Right.
You
Well,
don't,
you do take, you have to take soil samples.
well,
You don't have to dig up the property, but at various points, you know, you should be taking soil samples, you should be putting flags out. That's a delineation. Just walking, this is just my opinion, but just walking the property isn't delineating anything. You know, yes,
Well,
it stayed the
they-
same, but
right.
without walking the entire property, you're actually doing a survey.
and that is what he did in 2004 and in 2021.
But no soil sample, though. I mean, I think what Deborah's trying to say is that we're trying to see if taking a sample at that point, and then once construction starts or whatever, is going to be the same, or if there's any changes or anything like that,
Well,
in my mind.
the wetlands, they were delineated via GPS.
I see.
They're,
Okay.
so he does have a very specific reference points as to where he delineated in the past, and then he goes back out and using the same methods, plots the GPS points again, and compares them to how they were in 2004.
But we don't see that anywhere. We don't see that GPS mapping. We don't see a
Well,
report
this-
saying how, is that new, though, that map? Or is that the one from 2004?
This wetland delineation that's shown on this map uses those GPS points. This is a two-scale, you know, topographical map. These points are created using the GPS points from Bill Smart.
2004.
From 2004, which were confirmed last year,
How?
using the same methods and the same GPS location.
And it doesn't say that anywhere. That's my problem, is I see a letter saying that it hasn't changed. I don't see specifics as to how he arrived at that decision. I don't see that, you know, using the same GPS coordinates that I used and give the coordinates or whatever. I took soil samples here,
Well, he does say the wetland area still showed some wetland species, hydric soils, and hydrography.
how did he determine that, though? But just by walking through?
I mean, you really can,
Yeah,
you can determine that by visually.
you know, he was identifying vegetation.
Yes,
That's
that's,
what wetland species,
that is the key point.
And if there was any change, I'm sure, you know, that you would have seen it or whatever. Yeah, it is really a visual thing for the most part.
This was done in, it's very hard to read.
I know, I had a magnifying glass,
July
too.
20, looks like 25th, 2018. This map.
That's the original date on the subdivision plans. That's not the date of the most recent field walk, that, the
And it
wetland.
says, the letter says last revised was April 2nd, 2021.
But we don't, I don't know. I'm just concerned that if we go ahead and say, yes, this is acceptable, and let's just say Lot 1 never had a wetland on it before, but by the time it's built, we went ahead and accepted something from 2004.
Right, and that's why we had him confirm his findings. I mean, this land hasn't been touched since 2004. There's
Right.
no reason to believe that the wetlands would shift, however many feet.
With the changing of climate and everything, it wouldn't
Well-
necessarily mean,
Well, the climate isn't going to affect the topography. The reason that this area is considered a wetland here is because it's low. You can see these lines, they get closer together. They form what is kind of like a shallow ravine. But up here, this is the highlands. They're going to stay like that. It's not going to, the land itself is not going to, the ravine is not going to physically dredge itself towards this direction.
water can do weird things.
Oh, I mean, and I understand where Deborah's coming from. I mean, from one year to another, climate change, not climate change per se, but one year you get a heavy snowpack. I've seen where, people have never had problems with water in their house or their basements. And you have a heavy winter where everything adjusts, or even a heavy summer. And now your water table will change. I mean, obviously, this is a wetland, so things are gonna happen. I think we just wanna make sure that, before they do anything on there, it's gonna be, okay to do.
I mean, the resolution document that we signed, stated that they would do a new wetland delineation. We had a meeting with them, tried to explain what we meant, that we didn't just want a letter, that we actually wanted to see a new map. I don't know, I just worry about the 2004, it's 18 years old. And I understand that this is what it's usually done, but, I did a little bit of investigating today, and, there are certain things that are acceptable for a wetland delineation. Surveying, soil samples from various points on the property. And, it's supposed to be a wetland biologist, but I don't know if an engineer is considered. Are there specialties? Is he?
Oh, yeah, this guy's specialty is wetlands.
It is,
He knows his stuff,
Okay.
and I guess, if you would like, perhaps a more detailed explanation from him of what he did when he confirmed his findings, then I suppose we can get that.
And I think that's kind of what I was looking for, and what we were trying to tell them the last time we had the conversation with them. It was Luigi and Mr. Womaninski, and, when we left that meeting, and it was a conference call with our attorney, we thought they understood that, we don't want to just see a letter. We want to know how you determined that it's the same. What steps did you take? Did you survey it other than just walking through? Did you actually set up, your little, I forget what they're called, but to survey the land? Did you take soil samples? What vegetation did you see that made you come to this conclusion? And what vegetation didn't you see that makes it not changed? What would you be looking for if it were changed? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I guess.
I'm just trying to cover, all the bases when it comes to our responsibility to that property and to a potential buyer.
Right, and I understand that, and, I know it's 18 years, but 18 years in the terms of, geological time scale is like a blink of an eye. It's, to me, this letter, he's explaining, I am an expert in wetlands. I did a survey back in 2004. I went and resurveyed it, And I'm stating with my signature here that the wetland boundaries shown are consistent with the November 2004 GPS coordinates.
Yeah, I know what the letter says, it just doesn't tell me how he came to that conclusion. Now, I'm just me. You know, and we can make a motion to either accept or reject this. That's just what I'm saying. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I'll go with whatever the board feels. But, you know, the other thing is, you know, he has to put on the final plat that it's deed restricted, the signs will have to be there, and I see that they said that.
Right. Yeah, we are willing to, you know, we've denoted everything on the plan
Yep.
that was explained in the resolution. And obviously, too, you know, we're gonna have to come back. You know, the majority of the wetlands are on Lot 4, and we're gonna have to come back if we wanna do anything with Lot 4.
Well, no, it looks like the majority of them are on the back of 3.
Well, the wetlands, I mean, these 3 small lots are, you know, they're tiny compared to the remaining Lot 4, and most of the wetlands are
Oh, you
actually in the
don't-
back of
you mean
Lot
the
4.
the entirety of the the acreage.
Right,
left
right.
over.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
we call
okay,
lot, yeah.
okay, right.
And this is where the topography actually goes downhill, is onto Lot 4. This is where they're the most substantial, what you know, your layperson would really consider wetlands are actually located here. You know, most people probably might not even consider what is over here wetlands. Because it's, you know, kind of the very beginning of where it becomes a drainage swale.
So given that, that would seem even more of a reason to do an actual delineation the way it would have been done in 2004.
Well, I think that's exactly what happened, is he did go out and confirm that what was there in 2004 was what is there today.
In 2004, he was able to construct a GPS layer,
Yes,
a GIS layer.
yes.
Now, so in order to do that, he had to have some kind of detailed information. He had to know where that, you know where that layer is in order to draw it, right?
Yeah, you have computer coordinates that we use to plot it on the map.
Sure, so I think what we're asking is to do that again. Not just to go back and say it looks the same, but to redraw it.
Well, that's what he did when he went out there. He goes out there with a GPS. He doesn't go out there without any equipment. He goes out there with a GPS and he redraws it. He says, look,
So he made a new GIS layer.
I believe so, yeah.
So where is that?
It's on the map.
So that's a different layer than the 204 one was.
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
Well, that changes everything. If that's a new map,
It's not an.
Well, it's not a new map.
but it's a new layer.
Yes.
where does it say that anywhere? I mean, is there a new date on that?
Says.
Like layer
It
determined?
says on the map, wetland delineation completed by William H. Schmark, P.E. in November 2004 and in May 2021.
It's probably right in here, but we can't read that.
We can't see it. Yeah. I know, I was looking with my magnifying glass and couldn't see it.
I have one if you need it.
Yeah, I couldn't see it with mine, it's a super duper one. So the layers, like Simon was saying, the layers on that map, if I look at the one, and I probably have at home, from the first time you came before us, not you, came
Yeah.
before us, it would be different.
I don't know if it's gonna be different because it's, how does he word it? He says it's,
Substantial.
Substantially consistent.
Consistent, yes.
Yes,
No changes.
So if there's no
Yes.
changes, it would be identical, basically. If
Yes.
if there was change, then there would be a difference if you put the two maps side by side.
yes,
Okay. But he's saying no, that there is no basic difference.
yes.
Correct. Okay.
Not only basic, no difference.
Right, right. Wrong word.
Anybody have any other questions?
No? I don't think so.
Okay, then could I have a motion to accept the letter for Mr. Smart regarding the wetland delineation or require a new? I guess I'll start with, does anyone feel that we should require a new one at this point? Bob?
I don't.
Simon?
Well, if this in fact is a brand-new layer made last year, then I accept it.
Steve?
I agree with that. If it is, he signed it, so, obviously that's what my feeling would be too. Then I'm willing to accept
I
it.
accept it.
Okay, then, yeah, if it says that, I agree with that. Hesitantly, but I do.
I understand.
We just need something with an up-to-date. Obviously, with what we have here, we can't really see it right off the bat. So as long as we have an up-to-date date where he went back out, I think that's what we're looking for,
Yes.
in writing.
I think if I send you the direct email, I may be able to expand those maps. Like, this is a printed copy, and I don't know if I sent you guys directly I think I sent you directly what Luigi had.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that may be able to be expanded in the email, but okay.
Gary, do you have any thoughts or anything on this? Our building inspector, I should have went to you before, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I remember reviewing the files, and you can zoom in on, like he's saying up there. So as long as the two dates are on there, I agree with whatever you guys decide. I see no issue with that. Earlier to answer what Simon was asking about the 6 month, that's really in case field conditions change. So let's just say we have a 100-year flood in between now and whenever they had put the application in previously, the Army Corps of Engineers or the DEC may come in and delineate new areas based on some kind of an event that occurred. So that would keep us from running into any issues in between those events happening, if his application ran out.
Okay, thank you, that helps.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, then, could I have a motion to accept the letter from Mr. Smart regarding the wetland delineation, considering that there is a secondary date on the map that states the delineation was done in November 2021?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I second.
roll call, please.
Okay, so Board Member Caruso,
In favor?
Board Member Freeman,
In favor?
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Mulfelder,
In favor?
and Supervisor Heck.
In favor. Thank you. And I will get the answer to the monetary questions and send them out to Luigi and Ken. Just to
Okay.
make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
patience. Okay, the next discussion is proposed local law to abolish, that word, abolish the existing planning board and ZBA and replace it with a new ZBA with 5 members and 2 alternates that would exercise powers of both boards. Comments need to be to the village board prior to the public hearing on the proposed local law on March 1st, 2022. So what I had said is, we'll have a discussion here tonight, but I would like each one of you to send me just a blurb on how you feel, so that I can then send all of those emails to the village board, so that they will have everyone's input on it, and not just something that I thought you said. So what is everyone's thought on it? Barb?
I agree. I think it is a good idea. It's true, I think going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. My only concern, it's not even a concern, but I do feel that maybe we should open up the field for those that are interested instead of appointing someone. I think maybe that there are a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there may be more people that would be interested and maybe have the expertise that we would need to participate in the board. How do I delicately say this? I think every person that's interested should be considered.
Like advertise it, you mean? Like,
Yeah, I would, and, you know, some people have had a lot of experience on boards here, and some have not, but I do think some new blood might be helpful, and again, hopefully someone with expertise, and not just involved in the local politics.
and how would you like to see that done? Would you, I mean, when? So now, you know, are you thinking?
Once, I think once it's decided that we're going to merge the two boards, possibly for the implementation of the new board, using previous or current board members. And then next time there is an opening, I feel it would be important to get some new ideas.
Good point.
Being that I've probably been here longer than everybody else and have gone through, this is my third term, which I think is coming to an end, I think, sometime soon. I fully support putting both of these groups together. We've had times where people have come to us and we've had to tell them they need to get a variance. Probably never should have came here to us originally. If you had one board that would be able to handle all those situations. And I'm not saying there's been a lot of them, because I really can't remember that many where we've had to send somebody out, but to another board to get, you know, for us to stop. But I think from a streamlined purpose, it would be much more beneficial to the village. As far as advertising, I'm not opposed to that. I think we do need to open it up and figure out a way to get more people involved. Because I do hear from time to time that people appear to be frustrated, but they don't ever really go out of their way to apply. Or they just would rather sit out there and take shots at everybody else, but then turn around when an opportunity does come, not be willing to step forward and take that. So advertising probably is the best way to do it. I suppose you could put it on the sign out there if you wanted to. But in fairness, I truly understand in a political aspect, everybody is always, they go out and try to get people to fill the spots. And a lot of it is because a lot of people don't come forward. And maybe it's because they don't know. So that would be my standpoint.
Thank you. Simon?
The zoning board of appeals has a judicial function, and that it hears appeals, excuse me, contesting decisions made by the planning board or made by the a zoning enforcement officer. So I don't really see how you could have one body that is both, the judge and the suspect, or, at the same time. It does serve, they do serve different purposes. At the same time, I think it's very rare that these challenges come along, so that I don't think the zoning, I don't know for sure, but I don't think the zoning board of appeals has that much work to do.
Right. That's right.
So, people would be appointed to the board, they would get trained, and then they wouldn't do anything until somebody has that appeal. So I don't know if you merge them, what would happen to that function of having an appeals board with judicial authority.
Well, I think it would still have to be there.
But you can't have, you can't have the same people involved. Like say we were the new zoning board of appeals. We made a decision, and somebody's unhappy with it, so they want to appeal it. So then they would come back to us and say,
I see what
we
you're
don't
saying.
like your decision.
Does that then go to you, Gary?
I'm not sure on that. I remember when it was first discussed, Allison had made a point to say that we could do away with the planning board because each municipality does not have to have a planning board, but you have to have the ZBA function. Therefore, if you combine them, they have to be combined into the ZBA. I'm pretty sure that's what she said. And there were specific things that she had outlined, and I'm almost thinking in there, she was very specific that she talked about having the quorum for the meetings, because if there were disagreements, you may rely on that vote more than you would otherwise.
Yeah, I almost remember, and I think it's in our code, I almost remember if there was a decision to be made, the final decision would be made by the building inspector or the zone enforcement officer. I think I remember reading that. But that's an excellent point.
And the other concern I had is that this board, at least in my experience, which hasn't been very long, but it has been entirely reactive. That is, somebody comes with a proposal, and then we make some judgment about
What-
that proposal.
The zoning board is being
No,
reactive?
this, the planning board. But one of its functions, according to the village
Code.
law that sets it up, is a planning function, which I'm not aware of us doing.
It's not a planning function in the sense of a town planner, like Gilderland has.
Well, I left the thing back at home
You wanna
when I
look in
came
there?
here. Yeah.
You know where it is?
Actually, I was fortunate enough to be able to find it. Zoning, it's in zoning here, and why don't you say what
Oh,
you got to
geez,
say
don't.
while I'm fumbling around
still trying to think.
in the pages here.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, being the new guy on the board, and I've only really been to a couple of meetings and whatever, I can understand where the mayor's trying to streamline things and everything like that, and then for someone who's coming in, who has a project and has something that they want to do, and whereas they come in, there could be some frustration. Well, I go, okay, so I went here, and it was like, now I gotta do a whole nother thing. I understand that. Myself, I mean, I don't know anything about zoning. My credentials, as far as being on this board, is I was asked by the mayor's mom. there was an opening, and she said, and the mayor said it would be fun, and I said, I've lived here all my life, and where people, where they say they get frustrated because, yeah, they wanna, this, that, and the other thing, but stepping up is the whole other thing. And again, too, I feel it's, for me, it's also a community, living in this community all my life and everything, kind of a duty, whereas most of my family has always done something, and I'd like to play my part, but again, too, is that I want to play a part where I'm doing something right, doing something good, but I'm not going to sit here and try and, I know nothing about zoning, I can sit here and say, give opinion and things of that nature. I know my way around the town and things like that. How this works, I don't know what's going to happen, truthfully. I understand both sides of it, I really do, and like what Simon's saying, I get that too, but for me, I'm with this board, however we're gonna do it, and with the community, so, I'm here where I'm needed.
Thank you. Did you find it?
Yeah. Okay, according to the village code, what we're doing is reviewing and granting subdivision applications. We do that. Reviewing and granting site plan applications, which we did this evening. Reviewing and granting special use permit applications, which we do. Preparing changes to the comprehensive plan unless the village board creates a separate committee for this purpose, and review of proposed amendments to this chapter.
Which, the only thing we don't do, there's been no changes, so we haven't done,
No.
but there is a special committee, and you probably know that reviews the comprehensive plan. There-
Oh, that I did
Yeah,
not know.
Yeah, there is,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yep,
all right. So that takes care of that question.
yeah.
All right. So that being the case, it's foolish to have a board that does so little.
That does, yeah.
Deb, didn't Allison say that there were some other communities that have one board?
Yeah, there are a few, there are a few other communities around here, but it's normally just your smaller villages and towns that, again, like the zoning board, hardly ever meet, so why have two?
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things that I was thinking, I made a couple notes here, fiscal savings, you have one board, engineering fees, attorney fees, so you've got engineering fees for the zoning board. You have attorney fees for the zoning board. You have engineering fees for the planning board. You have attorney fees for the planning board. Having Gary here, having Ginger here, that's all fiscal responsibility that the village has for both boards right now that could be just one. Our training that we have every year, I think it's a shame that, our zoning board is put through all this training, and it's very informational, and I think it's, everyone enjoys it, especially the way it's been done lately. It's a shame that they don't get to use that training.
Yeah.
And, I think most importantly is streamlining the application process. Not only for the applicant, but for us too. But especially for the applicant. You keep getting bounced back and forth, and it's like, well, why didn't you tell me that to begin with?
Yeah, I definitely agree on
Yeah,
that.
I agree with that.
For
I
sure.
also do agree with what Simon said, though, is that there has to be something set up if this goes this way for somebody to have a system to appeal it. Because if you only have one group that is basically setting the guidelines, and they don't agree with that, like you said, before you could either, if the zoning board did something, they came to us, or vice versa. There's got to be somewhere in that system that would allow a person to be able to appeal that. Now, whether it goes to Gary or whatever, but I would think that that's something that needs to be
Yeah, I
someplace
agree.
written for that process.
I agree 100%.
Because that kind of eliminates the checks and balances in terms of having one committee.
Yeah, so definitely make that note of that in your email. And, you know, I could get the answer from Allison on that.
Right. Just curious how the
Yeah,
other groups
yeah,
do
that-
it.
That's a good point. And it may have something entirely different, but I thought somewhere in our code, you know, I do this at night, I read our code, I have nothing else to do. But,
Boy,
I thought somewhere in the code, the final decision is with the zoning administrator or the building inspector. Whether it pertained to that, I think it does have something to do with the ZBA, it had something to do with the ZBA, but again, you know,
Yeah, well, my recollection from the training is that the zoning board of appeals could hear, I guess, contrasting views to what the code enforcement officer has said. So the zoning board of appeals is the arbiter, not the code officer.
all right, must have had something to do with something else.
right. Okay.
All right, well, you know, there's no motion to do this tonight, it's just a discussion, just to get everyone's input. And, you know, again, if you can just send something to me, doesn't have to be wordy, or it can be, I don't care.
Are they going to vote on this on the 1st? Or
Yeah.
is it still an open meeting
It's a public,
discussion?
yes, it's continuing the public
Oh,
hearing
okay.
for the village board.
Deborah,
yes.
just out of curiosity, where does the end decision come? I mean, is it like, we have to agree and the zoning has to agree, or is it the mayor, or public?
It's
How does that
The
work?
village board will make the
Okay,
decision.
okay.
They will make the final decision. Once we give our input, and, you know, then they will, I think they will actually read it. I believe the last time, Steve, it was, Tim was, what did we give our opinion on, and they actually read it at the meeting?
Yeah,
Well,
I think it was the pre-concept of Stewart's.
Was it?
One of those many times that we had to do that more than once because they changed it more than once.
That's been erased from my memory
Yeah.
bank somehow.
I mean, that was such a, obviously unique situation
Yes,
that
yeah,
I don't think there'll be very many of those. The project, that Lot 4 we're talking about, that will be a big project that, if it ever goes through,
yeah,
where that would be something that would be
yeah. And
dealt with.
they have to come back before us for that
Oh, yeah.
anyway, but,
Yeah.
you know, at that point in time, we'll have to discuss, you know, further questions
But there
on
just aren't a lot of big
delineation,
things like,
but- Well, not that we know of.
that's
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you know, Tri still hasn't done anything on the houses on Main Street,
Right.
so he's gonna have to apply for
So
an
he's gonna have to
extension.
come back again. Well,
Or apply for an extension.
that's been longer than 6 months,
Well,
hasn't it?
I think it was like March,
So that
March
should
or
have expired
April.
already then.
Yeah, he would have to
6
come
months.
back.
Yeah.
yeah.
Start all over again.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Like
Interesting.
the subdivision came back several times over the last few years.
This one? Yeah,
Yeah.
several times.
Well, in fact, it was in thinking about that, Lot 4, that I was really thinking about our comprehensive plan and to what degree that addresses, and I think the degree to which it addresses it is zero, is protection of the access to Bosenkill. The village is expanding to the north. It's expanding in the direction of the Bosenkill. And I would hate to see the access to that privatized. And I think that is a planning function that I would, hope that this board or its successor thinks about, is protecting access to our natural water bodies.
Well, that Lot 4 will definitely have to address that type of thing, whether they do, a wildlife preserve kind of thing that would be open, to the public, or...
Well, I would say that now that Altamont has already started something like that, that would have to be part of the deal. I mean, most other communities, when, say for instance, down in 155, the Hiawatha,
Yeah, trails.
yeah,
the golf
I mean,
course.
one of their big things is going to be nature walk and
Preservation,
all of
yeah,
that. So, which will probably have to be maintained privately, but, if you want to do that, if you want to have those houses and whatnot, you got to do it. and you
Yeah.
gotta keep up on
It's
it.
a,
But,
Definitely something to remember.
Well, that's why
Whoever was here.
that's why we ended up, when it was done that way, Lot 4 was not put in as one individual lot. It was put in the entire parcel. Can't have anything done
Yeah,
without that
that's
coming to
exactly
us.
the way that I understood it
That's
too.
exactly
And
right.
they, you know, that was one of the things that, you know, I don't want to say that they tried to
Yeah.
get by us.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, they wanted that fourth lot approved at, you know.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we were like, no.
Nope.
That,
Nope.
you've got 23 more acres that if we approve that lot, you can build on.
And
you
one
know?
of the other aspects of
Yeah.
that whole piece of property is there's a portion of it that's in the town of Gilliland.
Yes, yep.
The majority of it is in our side, but there's, because I live right there. My backyard just goes right out to it. And, yeah, there's quite a portion of it. It's gonna take somebody with deep pockets to ever develop that, if they
The
ever
whole
get to
Sure,
that
if they
point.
wanted to, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and it would be great if we had a plan,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, this,
Well, there are things in our code
Yeah.
that addresses, in our subdivision part, that addresses keeping, you know, trees, and if you take too many, X amount of trees down, you know, you have to put them back. There are, does it, you know, cover it in depth? No.
But I agree though, Simon's right. I
Yeah.
mean, put something together even before the question is asked.
Yeah.
Or even before it's brought to
I
the table,
know
say,
that
and then when he does, it's say, okay, well, we've been waiting for this and this is what we propose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time now, you know, because I'm pretty sure that they are considering reviewing the comprehensive plan and changing what needs to be changed or adding. And you know what, Simon? What you just read, if there's something maybe that we could come up with at some point in time to put in our code when it comes to subdivision about development of land.
well, so how do we as a board develop this language?
We'd probably have to go through Allison, obviously, but, you know, we can throw the idea out there. You know, this is all falling under other business, by the way. I can float the idea to the mayor and ask the mayor to float it to the village board. And if it's something that's acceptable to everybody, then, you know, we would have to, and I don't know how we do that. I don't know if we'd have to do that in a meeting, or if, you know, we could just do it. I know we can't meet as a board. We can't do that. So if we wanted to do that, we might have to schedule a meeting to review the code and where we might be able to add that type of language. But I can find out. I'll definitely find out how we would do that if we wanted to add something.
I think it's worth investigating. I
Yeah.
definitely-
I think that's great. I think that's what we should be doing.
Yeah,
And if this guy's been back there and he's obviously gone through all the properties, utilize the information he's given, if it, you know, if you've got green space, wetland,
Yeah.
things of that nature, you know, things that may not, should, or should not be changed, or if we already have trails that Altamont's been maintaining, and that, just that kind of language to
well, there's
put
a
in
Bozeman
there.
Hill Preserve, but, you know, that's separate from that land.
Right, yeah.
Well, I'll just throw this out there so that, because I'm not sure I'll be on the board at that time, or depending upon how it goes forward, but Mr. Romansky is the fourth owner of that property.
In how many years?
Well, I've lived there for 34 years, so he's actually the fifth owner.
Wow.
So the second owner literally went in and started carving roads out without any permits and done anything. The point I'm getting to is that wetlands will be a major issue to deal with because he disrupted everything. Just by building roads when he should never have been able, he just played around with his backhoe and started building roads. If you go behind my house right now, you can still see those roads that are there. So, that's something to keep in mind, because everything, the Army Corps of Engineers or whomever will need to be involved with this. So I'm just throwing that out there to have it go in the minutes, that if that's something that's gonna need to be addressed. So, That's my 2 cents. And it's a big project. It'll be a big project, and you're right, they're gonna try to do some different things with that eventually.
Yeah,
Somebody will,
yeah.
not so sure him.
Okay. Anything else under other business?
What exactly would you want to see, would you want to have in the minutes with regard to that? Because I don't, like, this isn't a public hearing, so it's not open to the board kind of thing. And so this kind of stuff would be a discussion. So if you were going to have something in the minutes that you really wanted to have specific, what kind of language do you want for that?
Well, I would say that, the board discussed looking at the code and, with this development in mind, possibly adding verbiage to the subdivision portion of the code that preserves green space and, allows access for residents, that type of thing, right, Simon? Anything more
Yes.
detailed or?
Yes.
Okay. And then, something that, what Steve just said, that once that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, when it comes to that Lot 4 development, it's going to be extensive, what's the word? Investigation,
No, extensive,
intensive scrutiny,
examination of the property. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but
yeah,
I'm assuming that somewhere along the line, there must be a map someplace of what that property was with wetlands and everything like that. I mean, I would assume, because the Bandolins were the original owners of all that property back in there.
before 2004 is delineation, you mean?
Yes. Yeah, that was, well, we moved in 85, so,
Were wetlands considered back then?
That's a good
geez, I
point.
don't know, it's a good point, good question. I don't know.
I don't know, that, you can look on the count, if you look on the county, like I said, I was doing stuff today, and there are maps, you can look, you just have to, there's too much to, I was like, you have to know this, and you have to know that, and you have to go there, and so I thought I had it, and it took me to like St. Lucie something up in Michigan. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Sometimes looking at a map versus just taking a walk.
Walk,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you just, I know I'm a visual person and I don't mind walking, but I mean, yeah, so you gotta get back. It's too bad we didn't have Google Earth back
Yeah.
in the day
yeah.
because that is, but,
Yeah.
yeah, just taking a walk through there and just getting a look at it for yourself.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a little bit more extensive footwork when it comes to Lot 4, if any of us are still on the board.
Right.
I don't want to say if any of us are still here, because that denotes something entirely different.
Real quick, that article that you had sent to a few of us about Mr. Folk's
Yeah,
property for
yep.
the chickens, was this land all part of that at one point? Because I remember somewhere, I was reading somewhere, there was like originally back in the 80s on his property file in here,
Yeah,
it was like 79 acres were part of his property,
Yeah.
and then it was all broken
Yeah.
off.
It all broke off, the DeBrins were the ones who owned all that property, and then they sold, yes.
yeah.
At
Well,
one time.
it wasn't Dubrin, the first owner,
Yeah, so I know,
the
they bought
house
it.
in the, last house in Altamont was a subject. I'll send it to everybody. It's actually a very interesting article.
Yeah,
That, it denotes and specifies exactly how that house was built and, why it was called the last house at Altamont. And that's when that was annexed into the village, was 1887 or something like that.
Because I was looking through the files to see any information I could find on that, and I noticed in the building permit paperwork from, it was in the 80s, I think, they got a permit for an above-ground swimming pool, and it said on there as part of the permit process, how much property is part of your lot, and it said 79 acres
Yeah.
plus and minus. And then later on, they had put another permit take that down and put the in-ground.
In-ground
in,
pool.
And it said the same thing on it, so that's when I was like, oh, okay, this, I didn't realize their lot used to be so large
Yeah.
compared to what it is now.
And Troy still owns some of that.
Right.
And then he had the houses in back of us, built. And they were all, I think they're all about 5 acres.
Is that the long grass lane?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Troy still owns a piece of the property that's part of this Lot 4.
Yeah,
There's a
he
piece
does.
that,
There's
and the
a-
best way to
there's an
access it.
access,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
He's had it deeded in there
Yep.
for an access to be able to get a right-of-way, but you can also get it off of Westfall. So it sits, I'm not exactly, you'd have to look at the map, but it sits way back up in the corner.
Okay.
Because he owned all that at one time. Troy
I
did.
didn't realize.
Yeah, yeah.
Him and Jeff Purley and
Oh, right. I think I did.
Barbara Fratterigo.
No, there's a blast from the past. Okay, if nobody has anything under other business, has everyone reviewed the minutes of the meeting on August 23rd? Anyone have anything?
No,
No,
None.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 23rd, 2021 Planning Board meeting?
I make that motion.
Barb,
I'll second it.
Bob, roll call, please.
Okay. Board Member Crusoe,
in favor?
Board Member Freeman,
In favor.
Board Member Litton,
in favor.
Board Member Mulfelder,
In favor?
and Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 8, review the rules of procedure for planning board meetings adopted at the September 28th, 2020 meeting. Consider a motion to change section 1, regular meetings, to state that the planning board shall hold regular meetings on the 4th Tuesday of each month as needed. Was everybody on the board at the time when we reviewed the rules of procedure? Okay. Then could I have a motion to approve change in section 1, to say that the meetings will be held Tuesday as needed, fourth Tuesday of each month as needed?
I mean, Simon, go ahead.
I'll make that.
Simon, second.
I'll second it.
Barb. Roll call, please.
Okay, Board Member Crusoe,
In favor?
Board Member Freeman,
In favor.
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Mulfelder,
In favor?
and Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Great.
Okay, could I then, at 8:03, have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second
Steve,
it.
Bob, roll call, please.
Okay, Board Member Crusoe,
In favor?
Board Member Freeman,
In favor.
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Mulfelder,
In favor?
Chairperson Heck.
In favor. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.